All right, everybody. Well, welcome to Customer Interviews the Right Way. I am Justin Wilcox, and we're going to start in about 5 minutes. But until then, I wanted to answer some of the questions that have popped up in the web shop question area. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them up in that top right-hand box and vote up other questions that you see there, and we will get to them in the order that they are voted on. So first thing I'm going to answer is Darcy asks, is this webinar part of an ongoing series? If so, this is my first time here, will that be okay? Well, first thing, Darcy, this is not a webinar. Let's be very clear. This is a web shop. The difference is webinars suck and this does not. So by sucking, I mean this is not going to be an experience where you sit back and you check your email and play on Facebook and do your dishes. You're going to get your hands dirty, you're going to work on your startup, and you're going to actually apply the learning that we do. So this is a web shop. It's okay. Everyone makes that mistake once or twice. We'll fix it. Okay. And then I'm going to do one other thing real quick. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So one thing I want to call out, I've just seen on the video page, there's a little banner that says, be part of the conversation. Click here to join the audience. Don't do that. You're already part of the audience. This is going to be where you're going to want to ask your questions. This is where you want to be, where you're going to want to hang out. Okay, so let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of this guy. Okay. Next question I'll ask, again, we're going to start for real in a couple minutes, but I'm just going to answer some of these questions. So now, as far as is this part of a series? It's not. I mean, I should stop. It is. We are part of the Founder Institute series of webinars. This webinar is the first that I'm doing. So it's the first time I'm participating in, and you are not required to know anything about any previous sessions or anything like that. So come as you are. You are welcome, and you'll be just fine. Now that said, if we want to turn this into a series, I'm game. Like, let's talk about it. So there'll be a feedback session at the end, and we can you can talk all you want. But let's see how it goes, and then we'll see about doing something bigger than that. All right. Thank you, Darcy. All right. Next question. Under Meet Your Partner, there's a question about target customers. Is this specific for paying customers or customers in general? Let's focus it on the customers that either are A, the hardest for you to get, or B, the most important for you to get. So don't stress about it too much. It's just a chance to sort of get to know your partner. But you might be thinking about the partner that you, the customer that you want to interview the most when you're filling that out. Thanks, Jay, for that. Oh, I forgot to hit answer. Well, there you go. Answer. Okay, Maria can't hear anything. If that's still happening, Maria, check the video is muted. Check that the video is actually playing. I didn't actually start talking until a couple minutes ago, so maybe that's the problem. If it's still a problem, go ahead everyone in the web shop chat room say so, and then Sergio, you keep an eye out and let me know if people are having problems. Okay. So, oh, deleted. Aha! She deleted the question. Look at that. Nice job, Maria. Okay. So, are you covering the differences between B2B and B2C? Okay, so this might be the last question the answer before we get ready to roll. But no. The answer is no, I'm not. Because what we're going to talk about today is really applicable to both. I will give you some resources later on that will enable you to sort of figure out when B2B matters versus B2C. But everything we're talking about today is going to be practical and applicable in either scenario. So great questions to get us started with that. Okay, cool, Maria. Good to see it. It's fixed. For the chats, Maria, in the bottom underneath this video feed, there's a chat room called Everyone in the web shop. go ahead and put comments in there, and then save this top box for questions. So I'm going to get rid of this. What's the purpose? Okay. Oh, series would be awesome. Okay. So, okay. As far as the series that Athens mentioned, I think that might be a series of blog posts, but we'll worry about that later. Okay. All right. So with that, I think it's time that we get started. Boys, girls, founders from around the world. So thank you very much for joining us today. Special shout out to Sergio, who is the director of Founder Institute in Montreal. Big round of applause for Sergio. Yay, Sergio. So Sergio actually asked me to run a session for his cohort in Montreal, who we are joined by some samples of. So everyone here who's live on this, done this web shop, they're all from Montreal's chapter of Founder Institute. So yay, we're so excited to have them there. So I said, Sergio, the deal is I will work with you as long as I get to work with you and all of the rest of the Founder Institute community. So Founder Institute really stepped up, and that's why you're all here, is because we're all going to try and learn together how to do really great customer interviews. So what I want to do is I want to just call out the distinction again between what we're doing today and a traditional webinar. Webinars are for passive learning. They're for learn by listening. So I want you to take any preconceived notions you have about webinars and how they work, and I want you to set them aside for the time being. Instead, what I want you to visualize is that you have come to a conference, a startup conference, and you are in a large conference room filled with other incredible founders from around the world, and you're going to collaborate with them to get the most out of this learning experience. That's what we're trying to do today, and that's the difference between this web shop and a traditional webinar. So with that, I would like to collectively hear everyone in the room, and the way that we want to do that is I want everyone to open up the chat box. So there's a chat box underneath this video. Directly underneath, there should be a tab called Everyone in the Workshop. What I want you to do is underneath that, I want you to write hello from, and then wherever you're calling from. All right, so go ahead, hello from blah, and I want to see a big long list of where everyone's from. So I'm going to go and fill mine out here. So hello from Oakland, California. And hopefully we should hear a big rise of everyone calling MTL. Is that Montreal?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we got lots of Montreal here. There we go. Now they're flying in. Boston, USA, Alexandria, more Montreal. Representing, for sure. Boom! Look at it from my basement. Nice. San Diego, Atlanta, Mexico, California, San Francisco, Melbourne, Toronto, Falls Church. This is awesome. This is so exciting to see. I did see a question in there about partnerships, so let me talk about that next. So, actually, I just want to touch base on, as you can see, the sort of the messages flooding in. This is the power of Founder Institute. So, Founder Institute is not only great because they have a local community that you get to work with, but they also have a global community. A global community of other founders from around the world, as you're seeing, a global community of mentors like myself, a global community of directors like Sergio. So this entire, what's brought us all together, Founder Institute, is also what makes them so great, is their ability to have such an incredible reach and create this community here. Speaking of community, that partner that you have, that you've been assigned, is going to be really helpful for this session. And that's because we're leveraging something called collaborative learning to make this experience more interactive and more experiential. And the idea here is that we've partnered you up with another founder, another person who's trying to start a company, so that you guys can learn from each other and with each other. So hopefully you have a Meet Your Partner tab that you can click on, and you can actually exchange some information with each other and learn a little bit more about each other. You also have your own private chat room that you have. So in the tab that's just next to the Everyone in the Workshop tab, you will see a private chat room between you and your partner where you guys can get to know each other a little bit better. Now, if your partner is unresponsive, that can happen. Maybe internet connection is down, maybe their child is on fire. For whatever reason, if they're not responsive, feel free to click the Get New Partner button that's just underneath the video. So if you just click that button, you'll be matched up with another partner, and you guys can rock and roll. And don't worry, that can happen. Someone can leave in the middle just because they have other plans. So feel free to get a new partner if you don't already have one. So I'm gonna hang out for a couple minutes and just let you get to know your partner. Fill out the Meet Your Partner activity, and then talk to each other a little bit, and then I'll sort of catch up with you guys once you've had a chance to get to know each other. In the meantime, maybe I can get to know you guys. So Michelle, what are you working on?
I'm working on a project for children with ADHD. So essentially, it's targeted towards parents, and I'm developing an application which basically reads their brain signal through using a headband and translates that into thresholds and determines whether A, the drug the child is on is effective or not, and then B, uses neurofeedback to assess if the child's mental capacity is improving or not, and has games which would help the child improve their mental capacity.
Wow. Okay, so that's awesome and super freaky. Have you ever seen me do this talk before?
Yes.
Okay, and so do you know who I'm going to interview during this session?
No.
Well, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Okay, awesome. So that's fantastic. And how about you, Simon? What are you working on?
I'm building a web-based registration and social networking platform for member-driven clubs and sports teams. The goal is to link people within the clubs with each other, to their peers, and with the pulse of what's happening in the club. And additionally, it's going to be integrated seamlessly with the kinds of services people use today, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Gotcha. And when you say club, you mean like a health club?
No, I mean clubs that people typically belong to around universities. So outdoors clubs, sports teams, cycling clubs, things like that.
Gotcha. Great. Wonderful. Okay. Well, hopefully I'll get a chance to meet you, Pam, and John in a little bit. But I kind of want to roll on. How are we looking, Sergio? Is everyone doing okay with the Meet Your Partner stuff? Any complaints? No? Okay. Good. Then we're going to keep rocking and rolling. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to run a live interview. So you should see a new tab that's opened up next to the Meet Your Partner. It says Live Interview. And what you're going to do is you are going to work with your partner. You're going to collaborate with each other to actually analyze the interview that I'm about to do. So hopefully, with a little luck, this phone will ring and it will be a customer I've never met before, and I will ask them about their problems and do a customer interview. And what I want one of you in your partnership to do is write down the questions that you hear me ask. All right, so go ahead in your chat room and figure out which one's going to write down the questions. The other person is going to write down the responses that I get. All right, and you'll be able to see each other type as you're going. And the idea here is by collaborating and working together, you guys can get a full transcription of the entire interview, including both the questions and the answers. So like I said, it's good to have a partner here. If you don't have a partner, they're not responsive, they're not hanging out, go ahead, click the Get a New Partner button. And if that doesn't work, refresh and try it again. All right. So with that, hopefully we are posted. And what I'm going to explain now is kind of what we're looking for during the interview. A lot of us think that we're looking for just a confirmation that a problem exists, but that's not actually what we're looking for. During the interview, we're looking for clues that tell us whether or not the person we're talking to is what we call an early adopter. Now, an early adopter is someone who not only knows that they have a problem, they are actively trying to solve that problem. All right. So during the interview, what we're going to be asking about is not only what problems they have, but we're trying to get insight into, are they actively taking steps to try and solve that problem? Because without that, we don't have that early adopter, and we won't get our first users onto our platform, onto our service. Now, if we talk to someone who knows that they have a problem, but they aren't actively trying to solve it, we would consider them an early majority. So someone's in an early majority if they know they have a problem, but then haven't taken steps to try and solve it. They're basically waiting for someone else that they trust to try the service first and then tell them about it, but they're not actively seeking out a service like that on their own. So that might be familiar. Maybe you can think about a service that you, maybe there's a service that you are an early adopter for, one that you are actively looking to try and solve a problem. So you're going out and looking for something. That would make you an early adopter for something. If, on the other hand, you are you're not really looking for information to solve a certain problem, but someone else tells you about something, like maybe you hear about it on Facebook or a friend shows you, and now all of a sudden you're using it, you would be considered an early majority for that thing, for solving that problem. So within our little group here, any questions about the difference between an early adopter, early majority, or what we're looking for during the actual interview itself?
No, good.
Good for me.
Yeah? Okay. Well, let's see if we've got any. Okay, congrats to Sergio. Good. There's no tab for everyone. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to answer some questions here just because it's taking a little longer than normal to get my interviews to come up. So here's what we're going to do. If someone doesn't call within the next, let's call it 5 minutes or so, then I'm going to interview one of you guys, one of you lucky founders, so that people can see what this experience looks like. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm just going to go through the question section here and clean this up a bit. Congrats to Sergio. Yay, congrats. Okay, we'll use this question section for questions. If you want to congrats Sergio, do that in the public chat section. Icon for adjusting my headset. I can't hear anything. Check the YouTube video, the bottom of the YouTube video. Make sure it's not muted. I don't see the other tab either. If you don't see a tab for the for everyone in the workshop, go ahead and refresh your page. Okay, so I'm getting the call. Hopefully, we'll turn this into an interview. Hi, my name is Justin. Can I get your first name, please?
Susan.
Hi, Susan. How are you doing today?
Just fine.
Good, good. Well, thank you so much for calling. So you have someone in your life who's affected by ADHD?
Yes, I am.
You are? And you have been diagnosed with ADHD?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for calling. Can you tell me, when were you diagnosed?
Let's see, it would have been about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, okay, great. So can you tell me, what's the hardest part what's the biggest challenge you face as someone who has ADHD?
I mean, for me, it's definitely keeping attention on things that are important but maybe not particularly interested in. That's how I ended up finding out I had it, was in college.
Oh, gotcha. Now you said particularly in, and I didn't quite hear what you said.
Like let's say I'm not interested in biology, but I have to pass a biology class. It becomes 10 times harder to actually do that.
I see, that makes sense. So if you're not interested in a subject, then it's harder to hold your attention there.
Yes, that's right.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So can you tell me about when was the last time you tried to solve this attention problem?
The last time I tried to do anything about it was during college. They put me on Vyvanse, and it helped me get through college to the end of the semester, but I got to the point where I just wasn't interested in going. Since then, I haven't personally tried to do anything to solve it.
Gotcha.
I kind of go about my life doing things the way I want to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when was that you tried the medication?
It would have been about 3 years ago when I was diagnosed.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So what other challenges do you have as a person with ADHD?
Probably the second most problem thing is like forgetting things. I have a certain way of doing stuff, so I guess I started doing even as a child. Like I set my keys in the same place every day, or leave things in the same place every day. But if I don't do that one day, I'll lose that thing. If I decide to put my keys on top of the refrigerator, I'll never find them. But if I always put them in the same place, I will be able to. But that's that leads me. I eventually lose things. Like everything in my house is that way.
Mm.
And if I don't have that set out plan, or I don't specifically say to myself, okay, this is where we're going to put X item, then I'll lose it, and I won't find it for months until I don't need it anymore. So that's definitely probably the second worst part about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. When was the last time you tried to solve this forgetting things or losing things problem?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how I handle it at home. That's my solution. I always keep my car keys in my purse. I always keep, like all winter, I've kept my actual car key in my coat. And if I don't put it there, I know the second place it's going to be is in my purse. And if it's not there, then I might as well forget going anywhere because I set it somewhere I wasn't supposed to. So that's just kind of my personal way of handling it. Everything has its place, and you put those things back where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And have you looked for any alternative solutions to this losing things problem?
No, I mean, I think that's something I probably started doing before I realized I was even doing it. I mean, it's kind of the way that I've done things for a long time, and I mean, I had come up with those solutions for that problem far before I was ever actually diagnosed for it.
Yeah.
It's just a pattern that I think I probably developed at some point when I realized, hey, you keep losing your pencil.
Right.
Do
Right.
something to find it because the teacher keeps getting mad at you.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's very resourceful of you. Okay. So, can you tell me what are the biggest challenges you have as someone with ADHD with respect to getting places on time?
That's actually something I've never had a problem with. I tend to, I'm a very, like, just like I have a certain place to put something. Now I use a calendar on my phone, but even before cell phones were a big thing, I had like a little pocket wallet-sized calendar that I wrote everything in. So if I needed to be somewhere, I would write it down with the time, and I would always check it. Like I would know every evening to check it for the next day. You know, usually check it 2 or 3 times a day. It's a little bit different with my phone, but I have to rely on the beeps and the noises and the sounds that my phone makes. So like when I get a new phone, it's kind of scary because I'm not sure if it's going to alert me correctly, or if it doesn't, let me know to set up like 2 alerts. Because like, let's say I have an appointment at 3 o'clock tomorrow, I'll have it tell me tonight, and then I'll have it tell me again 1 hour before the appointment. And I hate being late places. So I've always followed that that way of handling that problem, so I'm not late. I'm actually pretty. I'm always on time to stuff, unless I completely it. Then it's getting. I usually, before I leave a doctor's office, I write it down. I get it in my phone before I pull out of the parking lot. I know I have to do those things. Get it, I won't be there when I'm supposed to.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. All right, Susan, any other challenges you face as someone with ADHD?
I mean, mostly it's the attention. It's definitely affected because I can't stay on path. When I was in college, I could never fully commit to a career path or even a major. So it's definitely been a negative impact overall. But just, to me, sitting down and saying, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life is the scariest and most ridiculous thing that you could possibly say. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. Why would I want to say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? So that's definitely been the hardest part for me because I haven't been able to have, like, a career. Not that I particularly want one, but my ideology about what life is like seems to be very different from a huge majority of people. Yeah.
That makes sense. Wonderful, Susan. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your information. This has been really, really helpful. The password you need is watermelon.
Watermelon?
That's
okay.
it. All right. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. So that is how we do a customer interview. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to do some observations. So I want you guys to just sort of we'll start in the room, but I also want to hear on the in the chat room. So in the chat room, you guys do the same thing. Sergio, keep an eye on that chat room for me. So, but within this our little group here, what sort of observations come to mind? What struck you? What surprised you about that conversation? Yeah, go for it, Simon.
For me, this is something I've found in my own interviews as well. It's incredibly difficult to transcribe the interview, empathize with the person, ask questions that are appropriate for that person, and keep following my script all at the same time. And I found that to be the case here. Yashel was typing the answers, I was typing the questions, and I was spending a lot of time on formatting and all this, and I wasn't almost following the conversation as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This is there's a reason why we're practicing it, and there's a reason why there are 600 people registered for this stuff. It is complicated to do. I've been doing it long enough that I know the questions to ask, except that I sort of flubbed the very beginning. But yeah, it takes some practice doing this stuff. The nice thing is the script is so similar no matter who you're interviewing, whether it's a customer, whether it's a potential date, whether it's your kids. The interview script is almost the same, so you can practice it as much as you want. But yeah, this is tricky. So having a partner can make it a little bit easier, especially if you're taking shorthand. Like I was taking notes, and these are the notes that I have. So you'll notice that these are probably going to be far less detailed and far less legible than what you guys have written down. That's because I know what to look for now. So things like, so when she said, "Hey, here's my biggest problem, attention and interest," I just wrote down attention. Like that's all I need to know is attention. And I may go back and fill in something more later, but that was yeah. This is really sparse notes. I also wrote down 3 years. That was really important because you guys remember what 3 years was? What was 3 years?
She's being diagnosed?
Yeah, when she find out.
When she started medication.
Yeah. Okay, and with respect to early adopterness, talk to me about 3 years. Why is 3 years interesting with respect to whether or not she's an early adopter?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So 3 years is when she got diagnosed. That's true.
Yeah.
But 3 years is, I didn't write it down for that reason. I wrote it down because it has to do with whether or not she's an early adopter. So
she was doing something about it before, like she got diagnosed. She was trying to find solution before that.
That is also a true statement, but that's not why I wrote down 3 years.
Because when she started her medication 3 years ago, it was during her college, but she just took it till the time she could finish her college, and after that she stopped.
Yeah, so that's really, really close. That's great. I wrote it down because 3 years ago was the last time she actually tried to solve this problem. Yeah? That was the last thing she actually tried to do. And that's definitely not an early adopter. She is over and done with. So if it's been more than 3 months, they're not early adopters anymore, right? If they're not looking for something actively, then they've probably fallen back into early majority. So that's why I wrote that down. Okay, great observation. Give me one more observation from this room, and then Sergio, I'll look for you from a couple in the web shop. Any other observations that you guys, surprises, things that struck you about listening to that?
For me, it was the the 2 alerts for her appointment. She structured her behavior because of her problem. So she put 2 alerts in the day before and 1 hour before the. I think she can live with this disease.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you say you think she can live with it, right?
Yeah. She's
right?
Not an early adopter because she finds things to she turn around.
Right? Yeah, she's got solutions to her problems.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the biggest thing. Like she's got no problems. Right? I can hypothesize about whether or not people with ADHD have problems being on time. I can even lead her right. I can point her right to that problem, and she didn't take the bait. She was like, "No, it's not a problem for me at all, actually." So, like that's why these things are so helpful, right? We can sit in our sort of ivory towers and think about all the problems that people must have. Because I know my girlfriend's a clinical, or she's a psychologist. She knows that people with ADHD have a hard time thinking about time, right? That's difficult for them. And so I could sit back here and just assume that and then go build a business around it. But instead, if I go out and talk to someone, I can figure out what the real problems they have are. And the truth is, she hasn't got any, right? So that doesn't mean that all people with ADHD don't have problems, but that means that this person didn't have any. So I need to do a little more digging maybe need to be a little more narrow. Maybe finding people who've just been diagnosed with ADHD. Maybe then I can go and find early adopters. Or maybe people who are trying to get a career. Remember, she just gave up on her career. She's like, I don't want to do a career. I'm doing something else. So if there are people who are want to be career people, maybe they're already in middle management, they want to get up higher, who have ADHD, maybe I can go solve a problem there. Great, thank you so much. Thank you, John. That was great, and Pam. Sergio, what do you got? Any interesting observations from the chat room? Sergio, I can't hear you if you're still with us, so I'm just going to pull out one. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of questions in the chat room. You want to check it?
Yeah. Well, why don't you pull out any interesting observations that you saw in the chat room? I see that Richard here says, I noticed that you asked about all the problems and solutions several times. Yeah, so you saw me like fishing for any sort of problem that she was actively trying to solve, right? So what you saw was I asked a question like, what's the hardest part about blah, blah, blah. And then she told me, and I said, when's the last time you tried to solve the problem? She said 3 years ago. Boom, that round of the interview is over. That iteration of questioning is done. If it's not something she's done within the last 3 months, I'm moving on. I'm asking again, what else is a problem? All right, so she told me about another problem. When was the last time you tried to solve that? Oh, it's forgetting things, losing things. She hasn't tried to solve that because she already has a solution, right? So it's worked. So boom, iterate again. Now this time I point her specifically to the problem context that I want her to say, because my hypothesis is that people with ADHD have a hard time getting places on time. So I point right at it and I say, is this a problem for you? What's the biggest problem about this? And she says, I don't have a problem there. So I said, fine, okay, anything else? I'll just throw one more time out. Anything you got in here? And then she said, she basically no. So yes, great observation there. Cool. Okay, so so with here, how are we doing on time? I want to make sure. Good. Okay. So, yeah, doing great. Okay, so now I'm going to do the question stuff. Okay, so I'm going to take some questions. So if you guys in this room have any questions about what happened, feel free to just fire them away. I'm also going to take a look at the questions in the room. So,
just one precision, because I noticed in the chat that several people were asking that you were spending more time listening rather than asking questions. You want to point that out?
Yeah. That's a great observation. Yeah, this is all about listening. That's the entire strategy. This is not about me. Do you notice what I pitched? Do you notice the product that I told her about? How about in the room? Do you guys notice the problem? No, I didn't talk about it at all.
No.
Didn't even mention
I was like,
because this is not a pitch, right? This is a problem discovery interview. I'm trying to discover this person's problem, so I'm going to spend as much time as I can doing just two things. Number one, if there's words coming out of my mouth, it's only doing one of two things. Number one, it's asking a question. Asking a question so I can find more information about her problems. Or number two, it's empathizing. Do you guys hear me empathize? What sort of words was I using when I empathized with her? I'll fill it in for you. Things like, that makes a lot of sense. I totally understand. Yeah? That's the only thing we say. Just things to make them feel more comfortable. Oh, yeah, I can see why that is. Oh, it makes a lot of sense. Now, by the way, this was a compressed interview. For her, actually, it was a full-length interview because she had no problems. But if she had a real problem, I would have strung it out for sure, and you would have heard me ask more clarifying questions. We didn't get to do that this time. But yeah, this is all about questions, all about discovering what their problems are. Thanks, Sergio. Other questions you got for me? Anything else in there?
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, John.
Yeah. You knew when she said about the 3 years ago, the medication. Why you didn't stop the interview there and just you keep going? You know, why you didn't stop?
Yeah, good question. So, like, why didn't I have? Why didn't I?
She's not the early adopter.
Right. So the two reasons. Number one, the biggest problem that they have may not be the only problem they're trying to solve. So I ask a second time, what else is a problem, just in case there's something else that, hey, maybe there's something else that's a problem that she is trying to solve. So I give her 2 bites of the apple there. And then I ask about the specific problem context. If I haven't gotten any hits when asking generally about their problems, I will ask about their specific problem context, like where I think the problem is going to happen. Yeah, and that's because sometimes we think that, hey, you know what? I'm asking, like, what's the hardest part about being a single mom, or what's the hardest part about being an HR manager? We're asking these general questions. But if I just had the chance to ask about this very specific problem, I know that they would be dealing with it. I know that it's a real problem for them, right? And so you get to allay your concerns, and you get to actually feed that demon inside you that says, just, they have a real problem, by asking point blank, what's the problem you have as a customer with respect to problem context? And then there you get to hear whether or not it is a real problem, and most importantly, are they actually trying to solve it? So we ask broad questions at first, so that hopefully they can lead us directly to the problem that we hoped. But even if they don't, we still have the chance to try and point them right at it and see what sort of feedback we get. So basically, I was just trying to understand as many problems as she might have, and most importantly, trying to find a problem that she's actually trying to solve. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I have another question.
Sure.
So for me, actually, what stood out the most was after she had, subsided the concern that the problem would be the fact that she's late at places, or she forgets things, or for me, that was not what stood out. But towards the end of the interview, where she says that her ideology on life has basically changed because of the fact that she can't focus on one thing, and that's a scary part for her, and it does not sync up with the ideology of others. So in my head, I would consider that to be a problem where she feels like a social, maybe, outcast. But I'm not sure if that's the right forum to be asking and continuing on with down that path, or if that should be the end of the interview. So what is your take on that?
Great observations. Nice job noticing that, and really good question. So yeah, she did mention that her career path was a problem, that she didn't have one. I happened to notice both at the very beginning that she said she basically runs her life the way she wants to. So I don't know if you remember her saying that at the very beginning, but I noticed that. And then at the end, she basically says, I think it's ridiculous, this idea of having, to know exactly what you're going to do for the rest of your life, right? It's a very visceral pushing back of this idea. So I could have absolutely asked her, hey, when was the last time you tried to solve this career problem, right? Like, and that wouldn't have been a mistake by any means. My gut told me, A, we were running a little short on time for the interview, and B, more importantly, considering how firmly she pushed back on this idea of a career, and that she had previously said, I do things the way that I want to, that she's not actively trying to solve that problem now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
If she would have said something like, it's career is a problem, and I can't send my kids to college, and I really got the sense that she was like, this might be something she's trying to solve, then I would have asked. But great observations, great questions. Okay, I want to take some. Okay, yeah. So Chris is asking, what's the password watermelon? So I used a service called Mechanical Turk to get this interview. I don't have time to talk about the details of how to do that, but I will send you guys all details on how you can access this community as well, no matter where you're living. Even if you're in Antarctica, if you have an internet connection, you can still do exactly what I did. It's mostly for B2C, but I will send you instructions on how to do that, or you'll have access to them if you want them. So great question, Chris. We'll worry about that later. Okay, I have a hard time transcribing and listening. Yep, agreed. That's difficult. Take notes and work with a partner. A co-founder is great for this kind of stuff. One of you asks the questions, the other one writes them down. How do you get these people to call you? Okay, again, Mechanical Turk, I'll send you details on that. Will customers be so forthcoming without an incentive? Oh, super good question. Stephanie, nice job. What kind of incentive must be offered for interview effectiveness? Oh, great question. Okay, number one. So yes, I paid this person. I paid them $2.02 for that interview. Now, as far as what incentives do you need to provide, the answer is almost always very, very little. The idea is that if you have to incentivize these people very much, then you're probably not solving a problem that they really are interested in solving. Because if she didn't want to talk about ADHD or anything like that, then she wouldn't even call me. And obviously, $2.02 is not very much money. So I highly recommend not incentivizing to the extent that you can, because it tells you whether or not they're actually interested in trying to solve this problem. As far as I also want to talk about bias, just real quick. It's not in your question, but it comes up a lot with incentivizing interviews. A lot of folks say that you shouldn't be incentivizing interviews and that you shouldn't talk to friends and family. I think both of those are incorrect. I don't agree with either of those. And the reason being, if you notice the questions that I asked, it was very difficult for her to understand what I wanted to hear. I was asking explicitly about her current problems and what she is doing, nothing about what I wanted her to do. So if you structure your interview in the right way, incentivizing can be okay, as long as you sort of listen to the answers that come out closely. Fantastic question, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Sorry, but I think I missed the point of what you're trying to discover with this customer. I know it has to do with ADHD. Okay, so Miguel's asking, like, what the hell was I trying to do with this customer? I was trying to figure out, is she actively trying to solve any problem? Because, like we said at the beginning, the only people I get to use as customers, the only people you get to use as customers are people who are early adopters, people who are actively trying to solve a problem. So that's the point of these interviews, that you get to go have a conversation with your potential customer and understand for real, in real life, what are the problems they're actually trying to solve, not the problems that you think that they might have, right? So this is the whole point of getting out of the building. We're going to talk to customers and understand what real life problems does this person not only have, but is she trying to solve with respect to ADHD? And the truth is, she is not trying to solve any problems with respect to ADHD. That doesn't mean that everyone with ADHD is like her, but it means that I now know at least one person isn't like that. It doesn't have those problems or isn't actively trying to solve it. I will go continue and do maybe 5 more interviews of this with this type of customer and understand a pattern, and then I can sort of dig in more. Okay, so I feel like we're probably running a little low on time, Sergio. How are we doing?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do next, is I want to make. Yeah. Is it time to move? Okay. Try it. Okay. Great. So let's try it. So I'm going to open up a new tab for you, and it should say "Try it." You try it. Okay. So what that means is that you are going to actively interview your partner. Yeah. So you're going to practice this stuff. And it's really, really helpful to do this because now imagine not only difficulty writing and listening, but also difficulty asking, writing, and listening. So you're going to practice it with your partner here in a safe space so you can screw it up and it'll be just fine. These are all great people trying to do the same thing. What you're going to do is you're going to share either your Skype contact information or your cell phone number or your Google Hangout information, whatever you're comfortable sharing. Share that with your partner in your private chat room, and then I've called out a list of questions there. And all I want you to do is I want you to ask your partner that list of questions. So we're going to give you a couple minutes to basically go away. You can go and do whatever you want. Keep this web page open, but go and do your thing. Go connect, and then we should get together at 5:55 should be our plan. So at 5 till the hour, wherever you are, 5 till the hour. So go forth and interview each other. Give this thing a shot. After 5 minutes of talking with each other, switch so that you both get a chance to be interviewee and interviewer. With that, I'll hang out here and I'll sort of answer questions that come up in the chat room. Oh, by the way, if you don't have a partner, they're not there, go ahead and click the Get New Partner button, and we'll get you a new partner, and you can interview them.
Wow.
¿Qué pasó, Sergio?
Huh? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no worries.
No, John. John just posted something on the Founder Institute blog. So it's wow. I wasn't expecting that. I
I
will share
see.
that with you later on. Not. Justin, the other thing, try to point out what's the minimum number of people that you should interview.
Yeah, actually, that's the most popular question right now.
Yeah.
So I will hit that one up. Thank you. All right, so we've got 5 minutes left. Make sure that you switched with each other. Make sure that you are interviewing each other. Switch. If I'm muted, this is the switch symbol. Switch. Switch.
In this second phase, Justin, what kind of feedback or engagement do you expect from the Montreal founders?
Let's see. I think more of the same. It's going to be pretty much. Yeah, it'll be exactly the same. Exactly
Okay.
what we've done before. Yeah, I think so. How'd that go, Michelle?
Oh, it was good. It's funny because he's my partner at Founder Institute, so we were kind of comfortable talking to
Oh,
each
funny.
other. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you still learn anything? Did you find out anything new?
Yeah, it's just that's what it comes down to when you're interviewing someone, and for me, I like this was over the phone, but if I'm interviewing someone or in person, I would I feel I would come off as being really rude if I was just, in my notebook, just noting questions rather than talking to them. So I would rather want to grasp the gist of what they have to say and, take a moment later on to write it all down. But I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, great question. Okay, so make sure that I address that if I don't do it already, because I think you are not the only person to have that problem or have that question. All right, so it's 5 till. Everybody come back together, come hang out with us again. This is the come hang out with us symbol. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes to finish up their calls. Let's rock and roll again. Give everyone a couple minutes to do that. What I want to do, you guys have some great questions over here, and I'm gonna definitely address those. But I also want to take some time. I skipped this during the last exercise, and it was a mistake to skip it. So I want to go back. What do I want to do first, though? I think what I want to do is, yeah, I want to. This is fresh in our mind, so I'm gonna take this. So what I want to hear from you guys in this group is some of your observations from this experience. So you already shared a great one, and then I'll sort of dive into questions next. So observations, Simon, sort of anything strike you or anything hit you in doing this process?
Yeah, I felt that I offended Yashel at one point with what I was saying, because she wasn't giving me. First off, I cut her off 3 or 4 times because I was looking at my watch, and I know we got 5 minutes. If we don't flip it after 5 minutes, she's not getting a return. And then I also was digging to get an answer I wanted, and I said something a bit abrasive, not meaning it at all, and it kind of colored the rest of the interview for me in my mind.
Wow, interesting. So what was it that you said?
Yashel, do you remember? I'm sorry, I don't remember the specifics.
No, I think you were just feeling bad because
Okay, no, what I asked
Yeah.
is, she said that she was having trouble finding times that would overlap to interview the doctors and the medical professionals that she needed to speak with. And I asked her, I tried to dig deeper by saying, oh, and do you think this will endanger your participation in the Founder Institute program? Blah, 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 blah. And I felt like that was really abrasive and could be interpreted to say that I thought she wouldn't be able to overcome this and it would create problems for her.
And Yashel, what was your experience with that question?
Honestly, I thought it was a valid question because in the context of it affecting my performance at Founder Institute, it is definitely something that should be considered. But that's the thing, like I wasn't sure what the point of this, the answers that he wanted from me. So if this was in sync with it, or if I'm not supposed to be relating to that, I'm not sure how that's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so a couple really interesting things come out to me, and thank you so much for sharing this, Simon. The first is that there's something that you wanted to hear, right? Like, presumably your company is not around helping people start their companies, right? It's about a fitness startup, right?
Mine, it's a social networking and registration platform for clubs and potentially sports teams. But that's just tangential.
Sure. Okay. So it has. I mean, it really doesn't have much to do with this problem at all, right? With the interview context that we offered, right? But you still found like you were trying to lead down a specific path, or something you wanted to hear.
Yeah, I wanted a useful answer to the question that I was asking, even though it had nothing. I'm not going to use it, right?
Right? Yeah. So that's a very natural inclination, and that's one of the reasons why this practice can be so helpful. Like this idea of sort of call it sitting with open arms, like understanding what problems our customers genuinely have and are genuinely trying to solve is our goal. Our goal is not to validate anything in our own world. It's to be with open arms with respect to our customer. Yeah. So it's a fantastic observation that's happening with you, and know that it's going to be even more intense when you are working on a problem that you're passionate about solving, right? So that's great that you can observe that, and then because that's the first step. Once you observe that that's happening, then it's a little easier to take a step back, as opposed to those of us who do these interviews and don't even know that we're pushing someone some way. You're a step further along in that path. The other thing that struck me is your a lot of times these are very anxious conversations for those of us who are just starting, because we don't have these kind of conversations about people's personal problems, right? And we can feel like we're maybe stepping on toes or asking a rude question. Let me ask, did any of you guys, when you were being interviewed, did you enjoy the process of being interviewed? Did you enjoy that someone was asking you about your problems? Anyone,
I don't know,
Pam? And she's
it's kind of obvious, like, and yeah, it could be like kind of I repeat myself again and again, and like now I know the process, so I will explain, but like it becomes annoying after a while, like you feel like the person doesn't understand how you feel about the problem that you have.
oh, interesting. So yeah, so tell me about that. Like, what was your experience? What was annoying?
No, but like because you have to ask like the same thing again, and like you have to explain it with different words because that's what the person is looking for. So I mean, I know the process, so it's okay, but I could see myself asking those questions: why is that, and like the person feeling annoyed by that, kind of
Mm.
I
like,
see.
is it not
I see.
clear enough?
Hmm.
Because you explain it once, and like it feels like you don't explain yourself clearly. So
Uh-huh.
for the
Uh-huh.
person being interviewed, it could be frustrating.
I see. I see. And did you find that were any of you guys frustrated? Did any of you guys get annoyed by being asked these questions?
Maybe sometimes you just don't want to talk about it.
Ah, fair. That's fair. What I've found to be the case when I've been interviewing, when I've been interviewed, and for the vast majority of people out there, it's actually very rewarding to have someone express interest in your problems. That the idea that someone would care enough to ask you about your challenges and wants to dig a level deeper, you may be right that there's maybe a problem in there that they're not comfortable talking about, and that's sort of annoying. But they're not so much annoyed at you as they are annoyed with the problem space, right? But what I find is that this is basically free therapy, and people respond really, really well. You saw that call that I had, like I don't know her at all. I've never met her at all, and she's telling me about all sorts of problems that she's had and solved in her life, including that she doesn't have a career, right? And that she's kind of socially isolated in some ways, right? So people typically actually really enjoy talking about their problems. So I mentioned this sort of going back to Simon and being concerned about stepping on someone else's toes. It turns out that you're probably at liberty to speak more freely than you think. Just because the person you're talking to, if you had the experience of enjoying thinking about your problems and someone asking about them, they probably are going to give you a pass and let you talk, unless you ask any questions you want to understand their problems. That makes sense? Yeah, any other observations? John, do you have anything?
Yeah, yeah. I just knew that I have early adopter.
Yeah?
Yeah, because yeah, one of her problems is discipline. She want to, you know, she's find it hard as a founder, disciplines, finish their goal, and her solution is how is be surround. Be with people, a community. Try to reach help from a community. She has tools. She has a lot of things, and she tried to solve every day.
Nice.
That's the I asked her when, and she said today and yesterday, and she always tries to solve it. So that's why I know she's early adopter.
That's fantastic. Yeah, super great. And what do you think, Pam? Do you consider yourself an early adopter?
Yes, I do, but yes, I do. But
Yeah.
because like also that's the other thing because you just talk about the problem, but then you don't give me anything.
Yep. Yeah, so that's one thing that I didn't get to demonstrate in my interview.
Like as a
Yeah.
you don't give me a solution to my problem. Like yeah, it's great. Like it was a great experience though.
Yeah. So what normally happens, and like I said, I didn't get a chance to do that during my interview. What normally happens at the end of an interview is you want to wrap up with, especially if you found an early adopter, or if you found any problem at all that they are trying to solve. Hey, it turns out that I'm trying to solve blank problem. You insert the problem that they have, the biggest problem that they're actively trying to solve. It turns out that I'm trying to solve that. Whatever your problem was that you're trying to solve, I'm trying to solve that too. And then you ask, is it okay if I contact you when I have a viable solution? So we actually don't want to talk about the solution at all. That's not what we're here for. Again, we're here to listen with open arms and open ears to the problems that we have. If we start mixing in and try to do half interview, half pitch, I promise you what you're going to do is you're going to do 80% pitch, 20% listening, and it's going to screw up. There is a time and a place for doing a solution interview, and we can talk about that later. But right now, all you want to do is get permission to contact them again for whatever problem it is that they are actively trying to solve. Because if it turns out that like you want to solve problem A and they're not trying to solve that, but they're trying to solve problem B, you may do more interviews and find out that more people are trying to solve problem B. Right? And then you decide, well, maybe I'll pivot and go solve that problem because everyone has that problem. So you want to get permission to contact these people if they are if they're actively trying to solve that problem. So great point, Pam. Great feedback.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
In terms of when you're dealing with the medical industry, the problems that I faced was I tried not to bring up the fact that I am trying to solve the problem, but many a times when I approached people, their first reaction was, wait, who are you and what experience do you have? How do you think you can, like, why are you asking me this? So it's a very personal thing. So it was hard for me to not talk about what it is that I aim to do without getting them to at least look at the survey.
Fair. Survey, what survey?
Well, when I was trying to put it online, so I was trying to get people to do the survey without me telling them that I have an idea or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Don't do surveys. That solves that problem. Well, I think there's actually a question on here about surveys, so we'll get to that. But I also want to talk about this question, like how do I get someone to talk to me if I haven't paid them, right, to do so? Okay. So what we need to do is we need to hint that we are going to provide enough value that this conversation is going to be worthwhile to our customer. And that value doesn't have to be anything substantive, right? In terms of like physical things or currency or anything like that. It just needs to be the idea that we are going to help them solve a problem in a potential area, right? And so you correct me, but I'm assuming that you're going to try and help parents make the best life possible for their kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, Mom, nice to meet you. I'm trying to help parents of kids with ADHD. Can I ask you a few questions about your experience?
Okay.
Like, what do you think? Would that be enough context to get them to feel comfortable?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's great. So that's exactly what we want to do. Hey, I'm just trying to solve vague problem thing. No specifics on what the actual solution is. You up for talking? Like that's kind of where we want to go. Okay. So there are lots of great questions. It's my intention to answer any question that's been posted that has more than a couple votes. But before we do that, I want to do some takeaways. I want you guys to write down. What do I want you to do? I want you to write down two takeaways. Number one takeaway you have from listening to my interview. So just one new concept, just one new concept, new idea, one thing to put in your brain. I want you to write that down somewhere. Once you're done with that, I want you to write down one takeaway, one new concept, one thing you're going to take from practicing your interviews. So write each of those things down somewhere. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to do that. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to go find some questions that I'm going to go answer. So just write those out. Once you have them, I'm going to stop talking soon. Go ahead, if you're comfortable, throw them up in the public chat room because I just want to see what sort of takeaways people are having from this experience. So for my own benefit. Okay, there you go. These are great. These takeaways are awesome. They're scrolling by too fast for me to read them, though. Great. Yeah, this is fantastic. You guys are getting it. Like, we don't mix problems with solutions. Open-ended questions. Early adopter versus early majority. If you haven't tried to solve the problem in 3 months, this is awesome. For discovering, not solving. Okay, I'm going to take a note here. I want to send you guys. Make sure you know what solution interviews when we do talk about solution interviews. So I'm gonna help make sure you guys have that stuff as well. Okay. Questions. I want to answer some of these questions that are here in the questions tab. Okay, how many people do you need to interview, and how do you know when you validated or invalidated your assumption? Okay, great question. So here's what I do. I do 5 interviews. I start with 5 interviews, and then what I try and do is try and analyze those interviews. We're not going to talk about that in this session, but I will point you to a resource that will talk about that. So you're going to analyze these 5 interviews, and you're going to try and see a pattern. If you do not see a pattern amongst the answers, what that means is that you've interviewed people who are across a customer segment. Your customer segment is too broad. I promise you, the ad I put up for people with ADHD is too broad, right? That I will not find a pattern in there. But you're not going to know whether or not you're too broad or too niche or whatever, so don't worry about it. Just start, go, do 5. If after 5 you don't see a pattern, I want you to hone in on the one customer that you found in there that's most interesting to you. So pick the one and then do 5 more interviews of that type of person. So let's say I did this interview with Susan. There's no problem she's trying to solve. I do an interview with someone else who is in middle management who wants to move up the ladder, or maybe they're a real estate agent, something else like that. And I find out, oh, the real estate agent with ADHD, they've got real problems being on time. So I'm going to go focus my energy on real estate agents with ADHD. Don't worry about niching too tightly. We're focusing on this very small segment of early adopters who are actively trying to solve the problem. Once we win them, then we'll start to win more the early majority and everyone else. So, so start with 5. Oh, let me click my little answer button so you guys know which one I'm answering. Okay. Now, how do you know when you validated or invalidated your assumption? Great question, and it has the answer applies to all experiments we run, whether or not we're interviewing or running some other kind of experiment. There is a technique required that I use called success metrics stoplight. I probably won't have time to go into details on it, but the idea is that you need to backfill your way to success. Okay, how do I do this without getting super long-winded? Ultimately, you're going to define your success for your company. And that could be an IPO, it could be $1 million, it could be just $100,000 a year, whatever your success is. And then you need to backfill and say, okay, that means I need to sell Y number of products per year. It means I need W number of people to see my web page. It means I need whatever VU, something, a variable of people in my channel, etc., and like going all the way down to eventually I need C percentage of people to agree that they have this problem. So success metrics are start from sort of work your way backwards. For this very first stage, I'm going to just throw out a ballpark and say if you can find a group of people where you find 60% of them are all saying they have this problem and they're actively trying to solve it, you're on to something. Yeah. If it's 40%, you know, between 40 and 60, I think you're okay. You know, if it's less than 40%, I'm a little nervous. If it's less than 30%, there's something not there. Now, this is me picking sort of arbitrary numbers, and it's going to change based on that backfill, like I was talking about. But shoot for 40 to 60%. If you can find that, then you're on to something. And believe me, when you find that customer segment, you will hear eerily saying the same thing over and over and over again. You'll get bored to tears because people who are in the same group have the same problems. I can almost guarantee it. Great question. Okay, so I'm just time check real quick. Okay, so I'm going to answer one more question. Again, I'm going to try and answer all of these questions. by the time I might run over for answering the questions, but yeah. So just a heads up. Actually, no, I need to move. I need to move. So I'm going to save this question for later, and then we're going to, so writing your script. Now what I want to do is I want you guys to write your own script. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up a new exercise here. You should see your interview script. So go ahead and click on that. And this is just a little interview script creator that I made for you. And all you do is you just type in two things. Number one, you type in your customer role. Now, customer role is just a title that that person would self-identify with. All right? So it could be, I've wrote some examples down, single mom, it could be real estate agent, it could be director of data analytics, it could be CEO, it could be an obese person, it could be a person with ADHD. They don't have to be like great things, but they do have to be things that someone would self-identify with. All right? So any questions in our little group about what goes in customer role? Do you have values for that?
Yes, I have a question about the customer role.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a B2B,
Mm-hmm.
business to business, the customer is the company, so the role is maybe the CEO, the salesman.
Fantastic question. That's a high five question. High five. That's a really good question. Nice. Because we think of B2C as like from like me to an individual person, and we think of B2B from like me to a company. But it turns out you never, ever, ever sell to a company. No one on the planet, in the history of the planet, has ever sold something to an entire company. You always sell to a role within a company. A single person, typically, maybe there are some other people that require buy-in. So that's a fantastic question. What you actually need to do is, if you think you're B2B, you need to break down, wait, who is the actual person? What's the actual role of the person who has the problem that I'm trying to solve and is actively trying to solve it? So in your case, John, like, who comes to mind? Who's the person who has the problem you're trying to solve?
I'm trying to solve a problem for small company, So
Okay.
maybe the CEO.
Okay. Okay. So CEO, and then like let's get a little bit more specific here. Is a CEO? You said small. What's your sense of how big is small?
Maybe 1 to 5 person.
Great. Okay. Awesome. So a startup. Yeah.
Yeah, a startup. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Perfect. Anybody else need any help with this one? No. Got it. Okay.
Nope, yeah.
Problem context. Problem context is just a description of an event or an environment in which the problem that you hypothesize they have is likely to happen. All right. So in my case, it was getting places on time. Right. So I did that interview. I said, hey, what's your biggest challenge with respect to as a person with ADHD? So that was the role. The role is a person with ADHD. The problem context was getting places on time. All right. So let me know, how's that going? Do you guys have problem context, Michelle? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your problem context?
That's going to be, well, the role or the customer role or the context?
Give me the context.
It's going to be a child with ADHD.
Okay, so now give me the role.
Parent of child with ADHD.
Okay, so then the way this works, if you scroll down, so you'll see down in that little blue section, and it says no mention of the problem you hoped. Do you see it says what's the biggest challenge you're facing as a, you see how it's filled in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so does that make sense? Like,
Okay.
what's the biggest challenge you have as a parent with someone with ADHD with respect to a child with ADHD?
Okay,
So I mean, like, when do you imagine the problems that you are trying to solve for them come up? Like, when? Like, under what circumstances?
So when does the problem being a parent of an ADHD child come up?
Yeah. Yes. Well, okay. Let me just pause right here. I would argue that that being a parent of someone with ADHD in and of itself is not a problem. That's like sort of, what's the problem with being a parent of someone with blue eyes? It's just that happens to be a true thing, that their child has ADHD. The real problem comes up when that ADHD is like a hindrance, right? So tell me more about, like, what's the what's the real problem? What's the heart of the problem that this person has having a child with ADHD?
A, understanding their child, and B, communication gap.
Awesome. So problem context is understanding and communicating with your child.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. Let me help someone else. Pam, what are you thinking? What's your role in your customer in your problem context?
So the role is the frequent business travelers.
Great.
And the problem context is traveling. Traveling for business without local help can be very stressful and time-consuming, which decreases productivity and success.
Okay, that sounds like a problem, which is great. That's awesome. What's the context? Like, when would that problem arise?
When in unfamiliar places, unknown places, when they travel somewhere they're not familiar with places.
Okay, when you're traveling in places you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's for business. So when you're traveling to those places and you have to face major challenges as like deliver the work and deal with other things related to the planification of the trip.
Okay, so I want you to just type out a short version of that with respect to business traveling to places. Yeah, you write a short version, and then you'll see how it falls out in your actual interview script below.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone out there. Hopefully everyone out there has kind of sort of filled this out and played with it. I've included a set of bonus questions below, including, Pam, one of the questions you sort of mentioned, like, hey, how do we talk about a solution? Like, no one mentioned it. I don't have time to go over those right now because we're gonna have to keep going. But use this list. This is like, excuse my French, the shit. You know, this list is like what you need to go figure out what problems your customers are actually trying to solve. So. Any other questions about that within our little group before I move on and just sort of we're getting towards the end of our time together? No? Good? Okay. Like I said, I'm going to answer all the questions in the boxes. I just want to make sure we have all the time for everyone who showed up. Okay, so now there's just 3 things left. I just want to sort of wrap up what we've talked about today. So during our exciting time together, you have seen a live customer interview. You have practiced doing a customer interview, albeit short. And next time we'll make that a little bit longer. But yeah, it was short. But you still got to practice that, hopefully. And you have your own interview script now, right, that you can use and run with confidence. So I highly encourage that you continue practicing this stuff. A great way to practice this, by the way, anytime you're networking, whenever you go out and network, use this script. Not for your own business, but like, hey, what's the hardest part about starting a company if you're at a startup event? Right? Get used to asking these questions. It will not only help with your networking, it'll also help sort of get this script rolling in your mind. Okay, 2 more tabs I want to show you. Okay, number 1, I got some goodies. I got some goodies for you. Okay, so in the bonuses tab, those goodies, these are, like I said, there's lots of stuff that I wasn't able to cover today, but I have information on. And that is going to be in, I have an email course that I typically charge $50 for, but for you guys, it is free. Yay, free! So remember when I said I'm going to take a note and make sure you guys understand when solution interviews happen? That's because I'm going to add this to the course. I'm going to make sure that you guys know that that's on the course. So in addition to, hey, who the hell should you be interviewing? How do you get them? Both B2B and B2C. I know there were some questions out there about how the heck do I get B2B interviews. I'll tell you exactly how to do it, including like a cold email script, what to do with the answers, like how to analyze them, and all that good stuff. So plus details on how to do the same thing I did, use Mechanical Turk, and there's also an even better service called Customer Discovery Ninja that's coming out soon that enables you to basically, with a couple clicks of the button of the mouse, you're talking to customers. It's super cool. So you'll get free access to that. So just enroll there, type in your email address, click enroll, and we'll get you set up for that. The second thing I want to tell you about, if you enjoyed this session, if you enjoyed sort of the practicality of this session, like how we're actually doing stuff, not just talking about it, but like trying it out and working on it and working our way through it, I am producing a series of workbooks that will walk you through every stage of validation towards product market fit. So we're at the very early stages now. We're trying to understand our customers' problems. But we can go all the way up through optimizing our marketing channel, testing with currency, will they pay us, building an MVP, scaling the whole thing. Imagine taking what we did today in this interactive workshop and then doing it for every single step of the validation process. That's what's in the Focus Framework workbooks. So they're on pre-order right now, but for you guys until March 13th, so that's Friday, I'm offering a special Founder Institute coupon code. So if you guys order before March 13th with Founder Institute as the coupon code, you guys get 25% off plus early access to what we're doing. So again, thank you so much for your participation and everything you guys have done today. This has been a fantastic session for me. Let me know what I can do better in the feedback tab. So last thing I'm going to open up here. Again, I'm going to answer these questions as soon as we're done here, but I'm going to the feedback tab. If you click on the feedback tab, there's just 3 questions in there that are going to help me make this platform and this experience better going forward. So your feedback would be really fantastic. And again, sign up for those bonuses and check those things out if they're going to be helpful to you. So with that, I'm going to take any more questions from inside the group, and then after that, I'm just going to run down the list of questions that have been in the chat. Any other questions from you guys here? Yeah, Simon.
After these exploratory interviews about the problem, what's our next step?
Okay, great. So we've talked to these customers about their problems. If we have found one that they are early adopters for, so I'm going to assume you've analyzed them. Do you feel comfortable about analyzing it, or do you want me to talk about how to analyze the results?
I think I could figure it out myself, so
okay.
It's whether you feel like it'll be useful or not.
Gotcha. Check out that email course. That email course will tell you exactly how to analyze them. Okay, what's more interesting is sort of the phase after that. Okay, yes, we've identified that we feel really confident they are actively trying to solve this problem. Next up is trying to, what I call optimizing the message and channel. We've got to go find a consistent stream of these early adopters so that we can run more experiments on them. Right, so we need to run experiments in terms of how much are they willing to pay, what features do they want. We got a whole bunch of things that we need to learn, and if we can't find a consistent stream of them, then we don't have anyone to run our experiments on, let alone sell the product to. So this first phase, we're being very targeted, very niched, very unscalable. We're just trying to find an interview here or there. After that, we're trying to take a step back, and we're going to try and repeat the words that they've used, the emotions that they've invoked in our marketing copy and in the marketing channels to try and see if we can get a consistent stream of them coming towards us. So in B2C, that looks like maybe driving people to a landing page. In B2B, that may look like I'm sending more emails to have conversations with people to see if they'll have conversations as opposed to interviews. So more of a solution interview than a problem interview. So in your case, talking to clubs and whatnot, after we've done a couple interviews with few people, maybe we'll send out emails to 10 clubs and saying, hey, we're trying to solve this specific problem that you heard during the interviews. Can we have half an hour to get your feedback on a solution that we're building? Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, thanks.
Great. Awesome. That kind of stuff, like what I just talked about, that's all in the Focus framework. This is finding early adopters is what we're doing right now. Optimizing message and channel is next. Currency testing. Oh, you can't see my shirt, but Focus, currency testing, utility testing is S, and S is for scale, or utility is a U. So, so yeah, focus. Okay, great. Any other questions in here? I'll take one more, and then I'll spend the rest of my time on the general questions. I know one of you. Michelle, you got something? Pam?
All clear.
No? John, you got anything for me?
Maybe to talk about the problem when you do the interview with a person, and now you talk about the B2B.
Mm-hmm.
My question is,
I'm in a Founder Institute webinar.
It's not a webinar, Simon. We can hear you.
Broadcast to 500 people.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, when you start, talking about the problems for someone, maybe it's hard for the person, so you have to be confident, But when you're talking about a problem for a company, it's gonna be different, Maybe the guy is gonna talk, I have this problem, my website doesn't work well, I'm frustrated. Maybe it's more easy to talk to business or
Mm.
to customer. I don't know because
Yeah.
I'm a little lost over there.
Yeah. So this comes up. Let me ask you. Some people feel like if they go into a business scenario and they ask people about their business problems, that people will not tell them about them because they're sort of like sort of trade secrety stuff or sort of inside
Yeah.
baseball. Is that sort of the concern that you have?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's my
That's
business. I don't want to talk about it.
exactly. That makes a lot of sense, and that happens. That will happen if you go up to Kodak. Of course, you can't go up to Kodak because they weren't solving anybody's problems. If you go up to someone else who exists still and ask about, hey, what are your biggest business problems? They're probably not going to open up straight up to you. But that's probably because you're not talking to a person. You're talking to a company, right? What you want to do is talk to the person, the actual person, and say, hey, small startup founder, what's the biggest challenges you face as a founder?
Okay.
Right? You're talking to them as a person, not a company. So you don't care about, hey, what problems is my company running into, right? Because you don't sell anything to a company, right? You sell to a person. So you want to understand what problems is that person running into as their role in that company. That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it comes all back to personal, and now we can talk about, oh, well, my biggest problem is my employees. My employees, they throw stuff everywhere, It's like, whereas if you would have asked about the business problems, maybe you didn't hear that stuff.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you guys have been just phenomenal. Thank you so much for your fantastic questions and your participation. This is great. Sergio, thanks to you for getting this great cohort together. I'm going to hang out here, and I'm going to answer these questions. If you guys would like to hang out with me, feel free to. Otherwise, feel free to go and get back to the rest of your life. And hopefully I will see you guys in the email course and with a focus framework. Other than that, have a good one. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sure thing. All right, so let's dive into these questions here. So excited to see, first of all, I'm so excited to see that this question thing worked. Like, yay for me and writing codes. Okay, so what are your thoughts on online/written surveys to gauge customer feedback versus verbal surveys? Okay, great question. I am of the opinion that that online surveys are too difficult to do right to be worth their investment. So what I recommend is that you forego them entirely. Just do not do them at all. Here's the reasons. Number one, you're going to get the questions wrong. You're going to get them in the wrong order. You're going to bias your person, and blah, 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 blah. It's going to be awful. Number two, they're not going to give you the responses that you want. They're going to give you short, whatever is easy to type. You filled out a survey before, right? What do? You type as little as possible. You click as few buttons. You're okay, done, right? Whereas no one does therapy via an online form, right? We do therapy via conversations with a real human, right? And that's what we're looking for. We really want to understand their problems. So at this stage, the name of the game is all about having these substantive conversations about their problems. So I know it's tempting to try the surveys. They're not going to work for you. Do the interviews. Do the interviews. I've previously thought that maybe surveys have a place, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't found it. Like, I really haven't. The first thing you do is you go and understand the people's problems, and then you go test whether or not those problems actually work. I have not found a reason to ever use a survey in between those two things. So, sorry, SurveyMonkey. Okay. Let's do this. I want to do this instead. Okay, so that was this question, and thank you, Matt, for asking the most popular question in the history of web shops. Congratulations, Matt. You're a winner. Okay. Okay, B is asking, should you wait to develop an MVP until after you have interviewed X potential customers? The answer is yes, undoubtedly yes. So we talked about how many to interview, and I'm going to argue that you're going to wait for far more steps. Okay, here's how it's going to work. Okay, this is like super awkward with my shirt, but we're going to try it. Okay, F. F is for finding your early adopters. That's what you're doing right now. So you're going to go find early adopters. We talked all about them. This is customer discovery. The O in focus is for optimizing that channel. Remember when Simon asked, hey, what the heck do we do next? That's optimizing the marketing channel so you have people to run experiments on. C is currency testing. This is where once you've found a group of people, a stream of people who are going to actively try and that you can test on, now we're going to start charging them and seeing if will they give us something valuable, something worth something to in order to solve the problem. That's currency testing. Only after currency testing, after we've proven that they will give us something valuable, only then do we actually start building the MVP. That's the U, utility testing. Can we provide utility? Yeah, so only then we scale it up. So great question. Yes, the answer is you should wait for sure, and in fact you should wait until you've done the interviews, so you've done the channel testing, till you've done the currency testing, and then you get to build an MVP. Okay, so that's all obviously called out in the Focus Framework. Check that out if you're interested in more. Thank you, B. Oh, I'm doing a really bad job showing what question I'm answering. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get it right. Roman asks, any tips to find B2B interview targets? Yes, cold email is the answer. Cold email. There's some talk about, like, hey, can you get referrals? Referrals, I'm sort of iffy on. Here's the problem with referrals. Again, you're not talking to a company. You're talking to a person who works in a company. Okay? So if you wanted to talk to someone at Google, that you know a guy who knows a guy at Google isn't good enough. Right? You need to talk to the actual person who's having a real problem at Google. So unless you can get an intro to the real person who has the problem, the intro is not going to be very useful. Cold email is kind of the way I go. Cold contact is basically all the way I go. And the reason being that if I can't get their attention for a conversation, like to have a 20-minute conversation with me, they're not an early adopter. Right? We know immediately they're not looking for a solution to a problem. All right. If I have to like hunt them down or like stalk them or do something weird to have a conversation with them, they're just not an early adopter. And right now we have to start with our early adopters. As far as what you say in the cold contact, that's going to be in the course. So definitely enroll in the course, and there'll be a cold email script that gets sent right to you. So great question, Roman. All right. Next up. How large should their sample size for our customer interviews be? So we've talked about this already. Start with 5. After 5, start narrowing down, and then you're basically done when you have heard the same thing over and over again and you're bored. That's when you're done. All right. Key distinction: potential customers, your example now, versus actual customers. Any differences in your approach? Okay, so maybe someone can help me. Chris, if you're still around, throw out in the chat whether or not actual customer means like current paying customers, or I don't know. If anybody here who's still in the chat room has any suggestions on what this might mean, I don't think I quite understand. I'll come back to it if I don't hear from folks. I'll come back to it. Okay. So let's go. Let's go next. So how do you find the people willing to get your interview? Outside, going on the street, etc. Recommendation of platform where I can find them. Just wondering. Okay, great question. So yeah, going out on the street is a great way to do it. Here's a tip on 2 tips on going out on the street. Number 1, try and focus. Number 1, go to where people are waiting. Right? Don't go to where people are walking around and busy doing stuff. So don't try and get them on the subway. Like, sorry, subway is a great place to get them. Don't get them on their walk to the subway. Getting them waiting in line. So I once did like 100 interviews. A friend of mine was running a startup that's going to target indie film filmmakers, and it turns out that one of his sub-segments was people who watch independent films, and it turns out that there was an independent film festival going on like that weekend, so we just left the coffee shop and we went and walked down the line and just interviewed everyone in the line, and it's just a fantastic way to get a bunch of interviews. So where people are waiting in line, grocery stores, airports are awesome. Business travelers, I know Pam was talking about, go to the airport. I've literally done that with a suitcase. Okay, that's tip number 2, but you go and you hang out where people are waiting for their luggage, for their car, whatever, subway, all that kind of good stuff. Tip number 2 is take props. So it'll give you more confidence if you have a prop. If I'm walking around the airport and I'm just like, hey, walking around by myself, it looks a little weird. If I've got a suitcase, I fit right in. If you want to interview dog people, borrow someone's dog. If you want to interview kid people, borrow a kid. Like props help. Not necessarily they're not required, but they will make you feel more confident if you need it. You probably don't need it though. If you want to interview just random people on the street, guys, flowers. Just go buy a bouquet of flowers, maybe some roses or something, and then you automatically, like, who doesn't trust a guy with roses, right? So go just get a prop, make yourself sort of look trustworthy. Okay, recommendation on platform I can find them. Haha, Subway platform. Okay, Mechanical Turk is one. You're going to get a blog post about that. Customer Discovery Ninja is another one. If you're outside the U.S., you got to use Customer Discovery Ninja. You can't use Mechanical Turk. But I'm going to send you information about that. Again, if you enroll in that course, you'll get information about that. It's a sweet, sweet system. So that's great for B2C. B2B, it's going to be that cold email stuff. Great question. Thank you so much, Marianne. Hiding that one. Okay, did Chris chime in? Chris, hey, potential customers are people who might want to / say they're interested to buy your product. Actual customers are people who offer to pay money for your solution right away. Okay, so here's okay, now I'm going to put that in context here. Key distinction, potential customers versus actual customers. Any key differences? Okay, so great. I think I understand the question. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, how do I approach someone who's like sort of like, hey, they've expressed some vague interest in maybe solving or using my solution versus someone who's actually paying for it? At this phase of the game, we don't care because we haven't actually asked them to pay. At this phase, all we're looking for is indications of whether or not they're an early adopter, right? Now, we don't do that by you mentioned in your chat that people who might want to / say they are interested. We're not even asking if they're interested, right? We're not asking if, like, because we're not pitching our solution at all, our specific solution. So we're not even asking that question. That's going to taint our interviews. It's going to taint up here. So instead, what we're going to ask is, are they actively trying to solve a problem? Later on, when we get down to currency testing, we will determine whether they're real customers or not. Okay, whether they're actual customers. But right now, what we're talking about is, are these potential customers early adopters? So maybe that's just the difference, that what we're looking for here, these potential customers that you're talking about, these are what I would call early adopters, and then the actual customers are people who we validate later with currency testing. I hope that answers the question. If not, go ahead and type me, again, I'll try and keep my eye out for this, everyone in the workshop panel. But good question. Thank you for that, Chris. Okay. Next up. Any extra tips on using this framework for consumer search engine? People are trained by search engines how to search. Any tips for consumer search engine? Okay, so Patricia, if you're still here, I think I might need some help here. You want to build a consumer search engine? Is that if that's the question? People are trained by current search engines how to use that for consumer search engine. Okay. Okay. I think what you're asking is that you want to build that. At this phase of the game, we don't care what you want to build. Like, what you want to build is irrelevant, right? That's a solution. What we're trying to find is the problem that the customer actually has. So if I'm interpreting your question correctly, that this is any extra tips on using this framework to build this thing, then we don't care. Because what you want to be in the context of is, who is my customer, what problem are they having, and which of them are actively trying to solve that problem. So if I didn't get that quite right, please hit me up in the chat, because it was a fairly popular question, so I might be totally getting this wrong. Okay, so let me know if anyone has this. I have a question. This is the place for the questions. How do you keep the interview short? I tend to talk to customers for more than half an hour, discussing so many things. What is a nice way to stop the conversation politely? Okay, so your question, how do we keep it short? Number one, if you can, don't keep it short. If you can, let them run on, right? If you're providing free therapy, they're providing you free marketing copy. right? So you let them run, let them run, let them run, let them run. Oh, speaking of letting them run, I didn't mention this tip. Go throw your iPhone down on record mode or your smartphone or whatever, and just say, hey, so that I don't have to like be busy taking notes while we talk. Is it okay if I record this conversation? Totally should have mentioned that. So do that and just hang out with them, and then let them run. Let them run. What you're listening for are jargon, specific terms that they use, things, emotional cues that they use. All that stuff is going to be super helpful to you. Okay, so now keeping it short. If you need to keep it short because like, hey, they have to go, they'll keep it short. Okay. Here's what I definitely want to cover this. You're going to feel, because you're getting so much value out of this conversation, you're going to feel like it's one-sided. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm asking them for all these details, and they're being so nice to help me out, and they're so busy, they're going to want to leave. And you're going to want to cut the interview short. Don't. It's one of the reasons why I wanted you to practice being interviewed. Because once you're interviewed, you realize that this is actually an enjoyable thing. So I don't end my customer interviews unless I have to go. I make my customer end the interview unless it sort of comes to a natural close. So don't feel rushed. Just keep asking about problems. Keep digging. As long as there's more information that you want to learn, keep going. Don't feel weird about that. As far as ending it politely, I guess I've never really had that problem, probably because I'm such a polite guy. But more than that, I think it's the way I wrap it up with, hey, I'm actually trying to solve blank problem. Is it okay if I contact you when I have a viable solution and get your feedback on it? So maybe give that a shot. Okay, thank you, Maria. Can you get another call so we can dig deeper? Yeah, right? Maybe I've been thinking about running another one of these, which is less of just more practicum. Like what if we just hung out and practiced, and like people in the hangout, they interviewed each other and we got to dissect each other's interviews. So yeah, sort of it was a hit or miss. These are always hit or miss when we do them live like that. So sorry I couldn't do that. For what it's worth, my phone was ringing off the hook. I had a ton of people calling. We just didn't have time. So I'll think about that though. That's good feedback. Thank you. Okay. Okay. What if an industry is just what if there's an industry which is just about growing? I won't have 3 years to judge. Okay, so Pratik, I'd love to get specific. What's the industry? I mean, I can guess and I can say something vague, but it probably won't be very helpful. So if you can, in the chat, throw out what specific industry you're thinking about, or what you mean by what's just growing. But what I think you mean is something that's brand new, like a brand new industry. So that's what's automated cars, maybe. That's a new industry. One of the things that I've had to discover the hard way through all this work, through this stuff, is that new industries and new innovations, they don't mean much, unfortunately. Just a cool idea in and of itself is not a business, and it's not anything that we need to be investing time in, as much as cool as it sounds. So a new industry isn't particularly interesting. A new problem is, right? So we're really going to focus our energy to a group of people and the problems that they have. So if our problems are drunk driving, right? Like that's a really interesting problem for autonomous vehicles to solve. If our problems are people get into accidents, or they waste too much gas, or they spend too much time commuting, or they hate traffic, these now we're starting to we'll discover an interesting industry or sort of segment, but we don't care about the solution. We don't care about the tech. We don't care about what's new. We care about problems that people have. So for this phase, you won't have to wait 3 years to figure out problems. You will know the problems right now. And that's why a lot of times you'll see, like, timing is everything. That's what they say, right? So, the Apple iPhone existed in Newton form, 10 years, I don't know, 15 years before the actual iPhone came out. And that was maybe what was the problem was that we didn't have the right problem at the time. It was still, it's virtually the same tech, but we didn't have the right problems. We didn't want connectivity all the time and be able to tweet pictures of our food and whatnot. Yeah, it's all about the customer and their problems that they're having right now. Okay. 3D printing. Oh, okay. So people are talking about, yay, the model making industry. Okay. So what problem does the model making industry solve? So 3D printing. Yeah, this is awesome. Great. Who has a problem that you think 3D printing can solve? Now, okay, answer that question. Now go out and find those people and ask them about the problems they are actively trying to solve. If they are actively trying to solve a problem that 3D printing can solve, boom, go in and now you've got a solution. Right? You've got potentially a business. If they are not actively trying to solve a problem that can be solved with 3D printing, you don't have a business, and congratulations, you saved a bunch of time and money. Hopefully that answers that question. All right, if not, fire away. Okay, Craig asked, what kinds of questions are more valuable, qualitative or quantitative? Great question. Okay. Qualitative at the beginning, right? And the reason why we're doing qualitative at the beginning is because we don't even know what words to throw into our marketing copy. We don't know what kind of channels to look at. We don't know any of that good stuff. So we got to go qualitative at the beginning to figure out what we're going to start testing with. You're going to switch to quantitative for everything else, for all the O, C, U, and S. For the rest of focus, you're going to switch into quantitative mode. So once you understand the basics of the people's problems and what they talk about, then you're going to be crazy about numbers and hitting that up. And we get to talk about that more in the focus framework about how to define a success metric and all that kind of good stuff. Very good question here. Towards figuring out early adopters. Okay. Okay, so Pratik, I'm going to come back to you. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Here we go. Boom. Okay, I want to talk to him about how to analyze these responses. Then what you want is the email course. In the email course, you'll get those answers, and of course, the focus framework will have it as well. But check out that email course. Will there be an archive video of this webinar? Yep, there will be. It will be available on the YouTubes, and I will send out a link to everyone. Did you build this web shop service we are currently using, Justin? Thank you, Richard. Thank you for that question, because yes, I did, and it was a crazy amount of work. Yeah, so thank you for using it and for trying it out. I did use it. If you know anyone else out there who wants to use it, please tell them that I am happy to collaborate with them. They can use it because I am really passionate about making online learning better. So yeah, Richard, if you know anyone who wants something like this, then shoot me an email, justin@customerdevlabs.com. Okay. What is this tool you're using? Well, now we know the answer. It's homegrown Justin's web shop awesomeness.net. Side question. What is this whole webinar thing? Oh, you guys, look at you guys. You're asking such great questions. Okay, I'm just going to hide these. Best way to find customers. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to sort of fly through these ones. So Jared is asking, I didn't mention innovators. So what he's talking about here is in the innovation adoption curve, there's not only early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. There's these people at the front called innovators. I don't mention those for simplicity's sake because I'm sort of combining two models. For problem interviews and problem discovery, we don't need to sort of differentiate between those two. We're just going to focus on those early adopters. So that's that answer there. Okay. Chris is asking about my time in Seattle. Yeah. The Seahawks. I love the Seahawks. So I miss not being around for that. But my parents, that's another thing. Okay, anybody else? So last call for questions. I'll hang out here for another couple of minutes. If anything hits 3 votes, I'll answer it. Looks like we got one here. What is the best way to find customers? Okay, so check out the email course. Oh wait, is it to find customers or find customers to interview? If it's to find customers to interview, the email course is going to have that answer, both in terms of B2B and B2C. If you're asking about how to find customers in general, then you're at the right place, because this is how we're going to find them. We're going to talk to them about their problems, and then we're going to understand where they're looking for existing solutions to their problems. That's one of the bonus questions in the interview script. And then once you understand that, you're going to start testing that channel to understand, are they going to become actual customers, as our friend actually mentioned. Okay. 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 Are your tips on interviewing not applicable after you build the MVP? I'm guessing I can still apply some of these. Very good. Okay. So Joe, great question. Yeah, this happens all the time. And fantastic question. Hey, I've already built my MVP. What the am I screwed? What do I do now? The answer is no. Of course, you're not screwed. This is going to be very helpful. But there's a couple challenges you're going to run into as opposed to someone who's starting fresh. Number one, you're emotionally attached to the thing that you've built. There's sunk cost, there's hours, there's time, there's like you've told people about it. So you are sort of attached to this thing. And that's going to make it really, really hard to listen with open arms to your customers with respect to the problems they're actually trying to solve. So know that going in. That doesn't mean that you can't do it or they won't be valuable. Just keep that in the back of your mind, that you are going to be more emotionally attached to this thing than most people. And then I've told people to do this before, and it never really happens. Not that I expect it to. I like throw it away, throw the MVP away, because it's probably not right. If you're coming back here, if you presumably you've built an MVP and you've tried to launch it, it probably didn't go well. If you've gone that far, the best thing to do, honestly, is probably to throw it away. You won't do that. That's fine. Hide it. Don't touch it. Don't invest in it, because it's not going to be very valuable to you now. It's going to be more of a hindrance than anything. For what it's worth, like an example of the Focus framework, those workbooks that I'm building, I had no idea I was starting with workbooks. I thought I was building peer groups, and it turns out that was not the right solution. And I tried some other stuff. I tried just a traditional book versus a workbook and a video series. I tried a bunch of stuff, but my customers were leading the way to the right solution. So that's a much more powerful place to operate from, knowing that your customers will lead you in the right direction, as opposed to, hey, I got this MVP, I got this thing that I've built, and I've got interviews that I need to sort of match up to that MVP. The one thing that you can do, though, if you're really attached to this MVP, is you can try and pivot on the customer. So basically what that means is, instead of picking a customer that you love and want to solve a problem for and then listening to them with open ears, that instead you have picked a problem and you are now going to search the globe for people who are actively trying to solve that specific problem. So that just means that you're going to be doing a lot more interviews trying to find the people who are solving that problem, as opposed to someone who picks a group of people and says, okay, well, I love these people and I want to solve their problems, so I'm going to sort of hang around and ask them questions until I figure out what their problems are that I can solve. Okay. 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 Answer. Hi. Okay. How long do I spend on C before we're giving up? Great question. This is all about defining your success metric. I don't have time to go in that here, but basically you work your way back from your success, right? Ultimately, you need this to be successful, and at every phase of the process, you could end up having to iterate and fall backwards one step. But basically, if you can't find a way from where you are to your ultimate path, then you need to go a step backwards and start reevaluating and rerunning that. I have done that so many times, and it's a bummer every time. There's just no way around it. It's a bummer for sure. But you keep going through this process, you work your way all the way up, and you will find a path. Okay. Okay, next up. Do you recommend having a mentor with whom you share our analysis of interviews so we avoid our own bias? Okay, interesting. So I definitely recommend a mentor, and I recommend a co-founder, all this kind of good stuff. As far as bias goes, you're not going to run into much bias in terms of the questions you ask, as long as you use this script. What you might get biased is looking at the answers, is analyzing the answers. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just a heads up, though, with respect to mentorship. The stuff that we're talking about today in the session is all very sort of cutting edge is not right because we don't know that this stuff is right, but it's newly developed. This stuff is changing all the time. So it's very likely that you will run into a mentor who does not think this way. That doesn't mean that they're right or they're wrong, but just a heads up, there are very few people in the world who think about building companies in a customer problem-centric way and that understand this relationship between early adopters. So just a heads up, you might run into struggles there. Okay, hide. Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. These are great questions. Okay, so what do I want to do here? Okay, I'm going to answer 5 more questions, and then I'm gonna call it a day. Okay, so what's the best way to frame problem context when there are multiple options? So you test them. Whenever you run into multiple options for things, what should my email subject line be? What should my marketing copy say? Who should my customer segment be? Whenever you have multiples of things, my intuition is to always test them to figure out the best one. So I would try them out and see how they go. Okay, I'm excited and nervous about this next question because I just read the beginning. It says, I'm a little disappointed. Okay, so here we go. I'm a little disappointed. Nathan says, I'm a little disappointed, so I'm going to share some thoughts for the audience. The caller has ADHD. I'm not sure an interviewer should keep saying great. I think this is a poor example of empathy, one of the keys to good interviewing and building rapport. Also, there's a missed opportunity to delve further and interrogate the caller's answers to why, which is often more important and provides real insight. Also, by asking, how do you solve this problem? You're being too literal, using human terms. People would be more likely to trying to cope, change their behaviors, etc., which are all cues to how this caller can be helped and supported. Okay, Nathan, so thank you so much for your feedback. This is really great insight. And I'm going to try and sort of dive into each one of these points one-on-one. I think they're all valid, by the way. These are obviously, you know what you're doing, and what you're saying is absolutely correct, technically speaking. From my experience, I'm going to offer just like how my interviews have changed based on actually doing this stuff, and then maybe we can have a dialogue about it. But here we go. Okay, so keep saying great. That during the interview, I will be the first to acknowledge that my empathy skills are not awesome. So I can definitely improve there, no doubt about it. I'm just going to take that one as a yep, you're right. If you have any suggestions on ways to provide that empathy, I would love to hear it. So thank you for that. That's great. Okay. One of the keys to good interviewing, building rapport. Okay. Also, missed opportunity to delve further, interrogate the caller's answers as to why. Okay. So you'll notice in the interview script we do delve deeper into why, but only if they're actively trying to solve this problem. So if I wanted to know this person's history, if I wanted to actually give them therapy, I would definitely ask why. But I'm going to cut it short. I'm going to skip all the BS because I used to do this interview. I used to do this interview script where the first question was, what's the biggest challenge you have? When's the last time you had it, and why is it a problem? So I used to do exactly what you're recommending here. Yeah. The problem is we would spend 15 to 20 minutes talking about a problem, about the whys that they're not actively trying to solve. And what I realize is that's the thing that really matters. What really matters is, are they actively trying to solve this problem? Yeah? And so all I did was move that question up. Are you actively trying to solve this problem? Like, what are you doing to try and solve it? So that I can sort of cut to the chase. And if they're not, then we'll move on and try and find some other problem that they are trying to solve. Yeah? Okay, so that's why. So why is in there, but it just comes later. Now you sort of have another point here, like asking how do you solve this problem is being too literal. Should be more likely trying to cope, change your behavior. Okay, so what I think the perspective you're coming from, Nathan, is maybe from sort of an I don't even know how to say it. You're interested in a different set of data that I'm interested in, possibly. The data that I'm interested in here is very simple. Do these people care about this problem enough that they are already searching for a solution? I'm not trying to understand their deep motivations. I'm not even trying to design a solution, that's an optimal solution. I'm not doing user experience interviews. I'm not doing any of that stuff. What I'm doing here really is just trying to find out what problems are they actively trying to solve, and it's very easy to tell. It's like the conversation between Pam and John during the call. Pam was trying to do something every day to try and solve this problem. That's what we're looking for here. Yeah, we're not trying to mince lines and if you have to guess whether or not they're an early adopter, that means they're not. It becomes very obvious. So I am all up for hearing an alternative script for sure. So if you have other suggestions, please feel free to email me, justin@customerdevlabs.com. Maybe we can even set up like a hangout and have a further discussion about this stuff. But I'll tell you from my experience doing this and hunting for early adopter attributes, this script works really well. So take it or leave it. Thanks, Nathan. Okay. So, okay, I think that was number 2. Thanks, Justin. Any extra tips for finding early adopters for new search engine? It's based on understanding all kinds of reviews. Okay, so again, what I want you to do is I want you to think about the person who has the problem, and I want you to think about the problem that they're actually having. So a new search engine that's a solution. That's sort of at the end of the rainbow. What we're thinking about right now is who has the problem, what is the problem, and are they actively trying to solve it? Yeah? So go find people go find your target customers, hypothesize what their problem is, and then go ask them, are they trying to solve that problem? Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, hide. Parents losing their kids. I have 20% admitting to losing their kid at one point or another, and 30% are worried anytime they leave the kids, validated or not. Okay, so Yannick, really interesting question. Thank you for being so specific. That makes this crazy easy. So a lost kid running around, I presume. Your validation will determine validation based on your ultimate success criteria. Again, you have to walk backwards from ultimately where you're going. Worried about something does not mean actively trying to solve. So that means that they are, oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Worried about something does not mean that they are actively trying to solve. That means that at best, these people are early majority. What you need to find are the people who are actively looking for solutions to try and find their lost kid. All right. Now that doesn't. So as soon as you find those people, if there are people out there looking to solve this problem, then you win them over, and they will help you win over everyone else who's worried about it but not actively looking for a solution. So for right now, admitting that they lost a child that's not interesting, and that they're worried about it is not interesting. That they're actively trying to solve it, that is interesting. Okay. Last one. How do you validate game or solution or problem for customers didn't know they have? For example, how do you validate if there's demand for Angry Birds or a new mall in town? Okay, great question. Thank you, Pat. Okay, so validation for games and pure entertainment plays, like movies and stuff like this, I don't have good answers for. There are some people out there who use these techniques, not the customer interviews, but they use validation and lean startup to sort of validate ideas they have for pure play entertainment. But I don't have any insight on the straight up entertainment stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be helpful there. As far as a new mall in town goes, now there you might have a real problem. Remember, we're not trying to validate whether or not there should be a new mall. Right? We're trying to validate that people have a problem going to the other mall that's super far away, unsafe, unclean, all that kind of stuff, right? So what we want to know is, hey, what's your biggest challenge as a suburban mom, right? And if she says, oh, picking up stuff at the grocery store or picking up stuff at the store, then we say, okay, well, are you trying to solve that problem? Well, I go down to the faraway mall that's super far, but I've also been trying to go down like to the local, checking out local craft stores or something like that. If they've been taking some action that indicates that they have a real problem with the big mall, then maybe the new mall is a solution to that problem. Okay, I got to run. My blood sugar is going low, and I'm answering questions even more poorly than I was at the beginning. I'm going to just take this last one. What do you say in the cold email? In the cold email, get on the course in the bonuses section. It's going to tell you exactly what to do in the cold email. All right, thank you so much, everyone. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, my apologies. Like I said, I'm about to drop here, but feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll answer you more specifically. Yeah, check out the course. I imagine that most of the stuff is in the course. If it's not, then check out the blog, customerdevlabs.com, and subscribe to that. I will definitely be adding more blog posts there. And of course, the Focus Framework will have lots more details. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and I hope to see you again soon. All right. Bye.